Welcome everybody. My name is Stacy Parker. I'm with the Arboretum and Public Garden, and I am very pleased to introduce my friend and colleague, Haven Kiers. Haven is an assistant professor of landscape architecture at UC Davis, and her research examines the environmental benefits, technological progress, and level of cultural acceptance of green infrastructure and sustainable design.
That's the fancy version.
She teaches planting design and design build courses in the landscape architecture department here at UC Davis, and co-leads a first-year seminar in Nature RX with me, actually. So I'm going to hand it over to her. She's going to be talking to us today about gardening in a pandemic. So welcome, Haven, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I am going to share my screen. And hang on, that's not working yet. Here we go. Oh, my PowerPoint disappeared. Now I should be able to do it. Sorry about that. Okay, try that one more time.
There you go.
Okay, so are you seeing the notes or are you seeing the full presentation?
We're seeing it with the notes.
Okay. How about now?
Now we're not. That's perfect.
Okay. Wow, we're just previewing the whole thing. There we go. All right, so Stacy, thank you for that introduction. Today I am going to be talking a little bit about gardening in a pandemic. And really, this was something that I was just thinking about, how during these crazy times, I've just been spending so much more time outside, and that's been my savior. That's the thing that's been keeping me happy, that's been kind of letting me escape my family and be by myself when I need to, but also to like create a community and be with friends and get outside to go for walks or to share different things. And so this is I just want to take a little time to talk a little bit about, how are some ways that we can take advantage of this crazy situation and get some good gardening done. Except now my thing won't move forward. There.
It will.
All right. So, celebrating solitude. Basically, I've divided the talk into two different pieces. And so the first is going to be, what are some ways that you can actually celebrate, like just being by yourself, taking that time and saying, you know what, like it's crazy. I'm on Zoom all the time. I need time for myself to celebrate myself in solitude without other people, without them, breathing down my neck. So I've got, I think, 6 or 7 top ideas of how to celebrate solitude while gardening. So the first is to practice mindfulness through the act of weeding. And I know you may be rolling your eyes, right? Weeding is not necessarily the most favorite activity of gardeners, but this is what I discovered when I was, back in undergrad, and I was at school I was at Brown, and I was in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was homesick and stressed and had all sorts of stuff going on. I discovered this tiny little Shakespeare garden that was just the back. It was just like a nonprofit kind of building in the middle of Providence, in the middle of the city. And in the back, they had a garden. And that garden had so many weeds. It was this wonderful gravelly area, right? All the paths were gravel and the weeds were just coming up in there. And I would go there by myself and I'd just sit myself down in that gravel and I'd just pick at the weeds. And it was the most stress relieving, relaxing thing for me, because I don't know if any of you have ever gardened in gravel before, but pulling a weed out of gravel is one of the most satisfying things there is, because they come out so easily. And then when you're done, it just looks unbelievable, right? It clears out
That's
so
true.
quickly, so cleanly, and it
Uh-huh.
gives you like the best sense of satisfaction. So for me, I have found that really just sitting there by myself, quiet, picking at those weeds, like not only do I get to sort of think inward and like do all the meditation and all of that like self-care that we're supposed to be doing, but what comes with it, it's this multitasking, right? Is then this amazing sense of accomplishment when it's done, and being able to look out and be like, look at what I've done, and to show people and to feel like in these crazy times, I've gotten it done. Like I've gotten something accomplished, and it's just the most satisfying thing ever. So number one, practice mindfulness through weeding. Number two, whoops. Damn it. I can't, there we go.
It's
Prioritize
okay.
Nature RX self-care over Zoom fatigue. So Stacy mentioned that actually both of us teach a Nature RX class for undergrads for the first year seminar. And what we've realized, and we're doing it online, right? Which is a little crazy that like we're telling people about how to, you know, it's kind of like giving a talk right now to all of you online, right? How do you celebrate nature through a computer? And granted, it's hard to do. So what I found is take the nature breaks, go for the walk outside, work outside when you can. We've actually been telling our students that if it's at all possible, that they should take their phones with them during class and go sit somewhere outside during class. So if you can have a meeting, you know, you need to be on Zoom, but maybe it's not one of those ones where you're taking notes, or maybe it is. Maybe you're like this person sitting on a bench right there, still outside, surrounded by wildflowers, doing a little work. You know, there are amazing places here on campus where you can still get Wi-Fi outside. Just spend a little time, just sitting outside under a tree, letting the wind blow through, and really get, like, the Zoom thing is real. It is tough, and like we really need to take some time to do things for ourselves. So whether it's weeding, whether it's just sitting outside and looking at flowers or appreciating the changing of the seasons, like these are the things to do. So the next one is this idea of embracing the art of the mullet garden. And so this is my garden here. And my garden, if you go through, you know, I'm a landscape architect. It's all about aesthetics. I have cultivated this garden. I have prepped it and primed it so that it is all very architectural and clean, and the lines are there. And, you know, I am cleaning out the little gravel in between there, doing all of this stuff to make it look really, really pretty up in the front. But like the mullet garden, or like the mullet, my garden is business in the front, party in the back, right? So I've got that front area. Front area projects like complete confidence, cool, collected, I've got it. And then in the back, like we gave up. We you know, forget about killing the lawn. We bought the COVID trampoline. Like we're destroying the backyard. We've got a trampoline. We've got a dog that's destroying everything. You know, anything I put in, he's trampling. It's a massive, you know, 110-pound dog. But it's also the area where I'm experimenting so that I can talk about, right, as a landscape architect, and I teach students, and I'm telling them all about keeping things simple, right, and not doing the one of everything garden, and really, you know, let your eye be soothed by like patterns and repetitions, which is all great. But in the back, that's where I get to like take this love of plants and just try everything. And so my garden in the back is not at all curated. I mean, you know, like we're growing sunflowers, we're testing bulbs. I'm using it, see that's me being badass, cutting edging for the back. So, you know, all sorts of experiments. The doghouse is an experiment like that's gone through, I can't even tell you how many iterations of green roof and green wall. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it looks really good. But that's the area where I can just like I still feel like it's all kind of tightened up, in the front, but in the back, I can let loose a little bit. No one's coming during COVID to visit me, right? Everyone is staying away. So this is where I get to have a little time, a little more fun, and really just play. Okay, the next one is harness your inner introvert. And so I don't know if you'll recognize Stacy from this photo, but everyone in the Arboretum is required to wear these vests that say stay 6 feet away. And so this is just one of my favorite things. I love this idea. I worked with Stacy at the Arboretum for years. And so I had a team of volunteers, and I was talking with one of my volunteers recently, and she was saying, she was just singing the praises of the vest. She's like, it's the most amazing thing, Haven. People are afraid to talk to me and they just stay away. And she's like, I love it. Right. And then I was talking to another friend of mine who's saying that her husband is living his best life because he doesn't have to talk to people anymore. And he just gets to stay home and like embrace that introvert, right? He gets to just do whatever he wants by himself. He doesn't have to pretend to like people, and I'll get to the community stuff, but this is a good time to be all about you for a little while and really just kind of do your own thing. So harness that introvert. And then this is another one that I really like, and we've done something similar with our students, where you can really just start to see the changing of the seasons if you do like this idea of a daily observation walk, where you're really following the same path every day. And every day, maybe it's just around your block, maybe it's around somewhere around campus that you're doing it, maybe it's just up and down the Arboretum if you're around here. But you follow the same path every day or every 3 days or every week, and then you just start noticing the changes. And this has been just phenomenal for me, is to see what's in bloom and what's not, and what are the insects that are around, and watching flowers kind of like come up from little specks and get bigger and then turn to seed, and watching the seeds grow and, be pollinated. It's another one of those, like, it's really a grounding experience, but it also like just gets you more in tune with what's going around and what's surrounding you. Has anyone seen we watched last night my octopus teacher? Oh my God, it was so good. See, Stacy watched it. It was so amazing. And the narrator, the man who filmed this octopus for a year, was saying just how he had always felt that when he was out in nature, he felt like an outsider, when he was down in the water. But then when he was doing these daily visits, he felt like he was welcomed and he became part of it. And he wasn't just sort of enjoying, the sea in this case, but he was part of it. And so I think by doing these daily observation walks and everything, anything you read about Nature RX tells you about this, that part of the healing part of nature is watching things over time and seeing how they change and feeling like you're a part of that dynamism, that's happening on, and that really soothes you and can help reduce stress. So to the extent that you can do that, another thing, what we've done with our students is we've asked them to create sit spots. And so if you're unfamiliar with the idea of sit spots, it's basically the same idea, but you don't have to walk. You find one spot and you just go there. And maybe it's every day, maybe every 2 days. And it can be a combination of meditation, but it's mostly just observation. It's just slowing down, seeing what's going on around you, listening to the wind, listening to the birds, and just that calming effect of nature can do so much to reduce all of the stress and just like take all of the craziness and kind of make it into something more manageable. And it doesn't take long, right? 10 minutes. And one of our Nature RX principles is this idea that it has been shown that 20 minutes a day of time spent outside just has a whole slew of health benefits in terms of reducing stress and anxiety and loneliness and improving, reducing levels of cortisol and all of these good things that there have just been study after study on. So just finding a little time and establishing that routine to create those walks. And then this was an article that my mom sent me about how everyone was baking bread, right? In the beginning of the pandemic, and it was all about bread. And, I'm thinking that instead of the pandemania of bread, it should now be, instead of baking, it's brewing. And this idea of using the herbs from your garden or from trees. I mean, one of the things they were talking about was using bay leaves, California bay leaves, and just putting that in hot water, or mint, or salvias and sages. I'm teaching one of the only in-person classes, the only in-person classes in the landscape architecture department, and one of only 5 in the whole College of Ag. And our project this year is to build sort of a pandemic-ready courtyard, right? So we want to create a place that's inclusive, that's open, that people can have meetings, that they could do outdoor classes. And we just finished planting a therapeutic garden. And so we've got tons and tons of sages and mints and rosemaries, herbs and tea brewing things, so that, but also in calming colors, right? Another thing that I just learned, did you know that during the pandemic, the colors, painting colors, have just like skyrocketed, right? The painting industry has just gone through the roof because everyone is like done with their accent wall that's burgundy or whatever it is. And all they want are soothing colors. And so greens and blues, which most closely mimic nature, these are the ones that people are getting. They want to feel like they want those cool, soothing colors, and they're just going back to the basics. So go back to the basics, brew tea, sip outside, enjoy it, and get new plants without ever leaving your car, right? I don't know how many of you are members of the Arboretum and Public Garden here on campus, but it is a fantastic opportunity. The plant sale used to be this crazy, crazy thing where it's just like people would line up and it was around the block, and then you get in and you're running around with a cart trying to, stuff it with these plants. Well, a benefit of the pandemic, dare I say, is that now you don't have to deal with that. You can get online, you can order your plants, you can pay with a credit card, and then you just pull up and a student will load your car while you stay in your car with plants. So you can plan your garden, you can plant it, you can do all these amazing things, and you don't have to be social. So just saying, here are some options. But moving on, let's talk about creating community, because it's not all about being introverted, and it's not all about just yourself, because yes, while my family is killing me and I want to be by myself sometimes, I also have this urge to reach out and to be with other people and to do things. And so I've found that gardening is actually a great way to be able to do that, or being outside and to create that sort of community. So the first idea is this idea of sharing plants with others. So the kids on the left are my kids, and they had a seed, like a succulent plant stand, basically a few weeks ago, because I had all of these extra pups and little pieces of plants that I was like, this is brilliant. What a great idea. And so they kind of set up on the corner of our street, and on Sycamore, and they set up this plant stand and had great success, right? Socially distant with masks. You can see, the hand sanitizer there, and every plant was $1. So, you could come, you could take whatever you wanted, and it was $1 a plant. And it was just so good for them to be able, they had their friends, like we put it up on Facebook saying we were doing it. So they had friends come and visit, and they had people, pull over and get some plants. And so it was just a great experience for them. And then I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Miraday Mobile Nursery, but this is just a concept that I love, where they're bringing native plants to you. And they're essentially going to all of these different neighborhoods around Davis and Sacramento and outside of Sacramento, and creating, it's kind of a social event. So you can come, you can buy your plants, but you can also see your neighbors. It's also being done, completely pandemic friendly with masks and all of that. But they're setting up in places like brew pubs or a lot of these outdoor restaurants, so that it can be a combination of people that are already outside, but then they can also get their plant on, bring some things back home, and socialize that way. So, this idea of really just being able to take what you've got, share it with others, talk about plants, that sort of thing, I think has been really like kind of a bonus during the pandemic. This is one that I indulge in a little too frequently. Little plant porn, right? I just tell you, I've got a good friend who I used to work with in landscape architecture, and the two of us just send each other pictures back and forth, right? I mean, she will wake me up in the middle of the night and be like, "Oh my God, have you seen that verbena?" and send me a picture, or send me something on Pinterest. And so this idea of like, maybe you're creating a Pinterest board with friends and other people are adding to it, or sending pictures back and forth on Instagram, or going on some of these websites, or even, it doesn't even have to be online, right? I'm in my office right now. I don't know if you can see those are my books. Those are all gardening books. And I am obsessed because there is nothing like looking at pictures of gardens for inspiration. I grew up on the East Coast where we really had that whole long winter, and the winter was when we were planning and you were looking at the books. And so like, that's what I was kind of used to. And now it's kind of the same thing. If we're in our houses and we may not be able to get out as much, like a little plant porn is a good thing. And so do this with friends and share posts. And it's funny, I gave a similar talk to the Pacific Horticulture Society on this. And a few of my friends from grad school were on that talk. And since then, we've just started this group, and they're like, we just send each other plant pictures and questions. And it's like, it's actually turned into this wonderful social thing with people that I haven't seen or talked to in like 10, 15 years. Suddenly I'm exchanging all these ideas with them and talking to them, and we're like getting excited about different types of plants. And I think that's really fun because it just gives you also something then to look forward to. Another article that I recently found, this was being promoted by the New York Times, and this is the idea of learning the Latin names of flowers and maybe getting groups together, right? We all know that we should know our Latin names, and we know that it's really important because it provides more accuracy than just saying bluebells or tulip tree or whatever. But there's some really cool names. And when you start thinking about, what things mean, that like, vernalis means spring, and that it's named after a person or whatever it is, the different words for having little hairs on it. It's kind of fun. And it also makes you sound really smart. And so this is one of the things I've learned as a professor. My students, if I'm just like, oh, go plant that, daisy over there, they don't want to hear it. But if I've got like, oh my God, I go down to cultivar name and I'm sounding all fancy, they're like, oh yes, indeed, I will go do that. And they look at you with a little bit of respect, and people will do that if you start using Latin. And it doesn't matter if you don't know how to pronounce it, because no one knows how to pronounce it. And it's fine. Like that's a good thing. Like you sound a little astute. You get to, talk in a fancy voice and revive a dead language. And so like loving this idea of friends, working with friends and creating groups to teach each other Latin. That one may be a little iffy on my list, but I still love this idea. And then this is the big one, right? The gab and gawk. And this can be, so the picture is pre-pandemic. They should be wearing masks, but the idea is grab a friend and go for a walk. And it can be as wonderful as just walking through and enjoying the campus. Right now, the campus it's still pretty dead, and it's a fantastic time to be walking through the Arboretum and seeing things that are going on, or walking around neighbors and seeing their gardens, right? I have had such a good time just checking out all of my neighbors' gardens and seeing what they have. And frankly, when I'm with a friend, I can be a little snarky sometimes, and that's okay, right? Like, you don't let the people necessarily who own the garden hear you, but it's kind of fun to be like, oh, I can't believe she did that. Look at that, It's a way to socialize, get a little sarcasm if you need it, and just start looking at pretty things. But really just to have that bond and that friendship to walk around, a walking meeting, right? That's one of the things that like I tried to practice. I know Stacy does it too, on a regular basis. If you can go outside and have that meeting, why not? And especially now, right? If you can do it, that also fosters that social interaction that you don't necessarily have. And then design and build a public space. So I mentioned that I've got this class that's in person. And so it's a landscape architecture class that's usually what we build. So last year, the picture on the left is a shade structure that we built. And on the right is a picnic table that sort of has like a green roof on it. And we just kind of add to it every year. But this year, we're really focusing on the idea of how do you design during a pandemic and how do you rethink public space? Because we're all realizing just how imperative the outdoors is and how much we crave being out there, and we want to use these spaces in, you know, in a safe manner, but we want to share them. So we're actually working, our first project was to design a pinup board, because, you know, we have so many of, like in landscape architecture, we have these reviews where we need to pin up posters. And so we created an all-terrain version that can go, it has massive wheels and can go out into the courtyard anywhere, so that you can have these reviews, you can bring it outside, create your outdoor classroom. I mentioned that we did a therapeutic garden, and now we're starting to create, we have new patio furniture. And so the students are all working on how can we arrange that patio furniture in a way that kind of promotes that inclusivity and invites people into the courtyard, but still has spacing, right? So we're going to use some planter boxes to put up screens, maybe with grasses in between. We're going to create a reservable meeting space so that you can actually have these outdoor meetings, and you can set aside a time and reserve that. But how can we use this time to create a space, even if it's just outside? You know, maybe you're in a city and you just have a little space right in front of your sidewalk. Can you plant some wildflower seeds there? Or can you gussy things up? Can you put up a bench that maybe people can sit at? You know, there are all those, there's just lots of opportunities to create places where people, maybe you have a seat wall that people could just stop and sit and enjoy, because that community is so important right now. And if we can create more public spaces that invite people in, I think we're going to be in really good shape. And then just finally, you know, we talk about promoting diversity, and then I'm just doing a pitch for promoting biodiversity, right? And really thinking about what's some of the wildlife that we can invite into our gardens, and how can we think about gardens beyond just being aesthetic. And don't get me wrong, I want the aesthetic, but I want aesthetic gardens that look neat and clean and beautiful, but then also have these benefits, so that we can bring in ground nesting bees, and we can have the goldfinches come and eat, you know, some of the seeds. And, you know, we can bring in, there's a picture there of the sheep. One of my research projects that I'm really excited about is trying to have the sheep that we already have on campus mow some of the campus lawns, right? So we're going to do it. I'm trying to do a trial period where we've got like sheep from the sheep barn, and they're going to come and they're going to be allowed to mow the lawn next to the Hyatt. And we're going to compare that to see what's the maintenance, what's the difference in maintenance between using sheep and using conventional lawnmowers. You know, but it's like, here we are, and we're this great ag school, and we've got, you know, great vet school. And it's like, how can we really celebrate that? And it seems like now is just this fantastic time to, when we're thinking about our gardens, to really think about how do we bring in, you know, promote the monarch butterflies and plant milkweeds for them, or the pipevine swallowtails, and you know, put in plants for them, and use native seeds to really just create this community that's not just about us, but this idea of reconciliation ecology, where it's designing for people and wildlife to be able to interact and both thrive that way. So with that, I would say thank you for listening to me talking about pandemic gardening. And if there are any questions that I can answer, I would be happy to answer them.
I don't think that does anybody have any questions? We did have one question about where to get those safety vests. And I put in an email like in real time about getting the info on those.
Excellent.
Oh, here's a question. Do you know of good places? Let's see. Oh, they're coming in now. Nice. Okay. Do you know of good places to buy heirloom seeds?
For vegetables, that would be a Stacy question.
Well, so Baker Creek, I would say, is probably like the best place, and you can find them online. And if you ever can make the journey, they're in Sonoma, and it's a fabulous place. They're in a converted old bank building, and it's really beautiful, and it's like nice to have a day of it. And they sometimes have seed festivals and stuff like that. So that's my recommendation on that one. Okay, let's see.
In terms of what can we plant now? Now is the time to plant. Fall is the best time to plant anything. Spring is fine, but fall, and especially now that we've got these lower temperatures and we don't have crazy rains that are mucking up our soils and making it hard to garden, like you are in the prime zone right now. So definitely start thinking about transplanting, getting new plants, zinging up your garden. This is the time.
Yeah, there's also a question. Can the Arboretum do some virtual tours of the gardens? That's a really good question. We are looking into doing some more of this kind of programming. We have been, obviously impacted by these circumstances, but that's really good to know that there's interest in that. So thank you for expressing that, and I will pass that along to our program people and see whether or not that's something that we could do. And it's really good to know that there's interest. Okay, and then I think you just answered the one about what we recommend planting now. And you can definitely still plant in the spring too. It's just gonna be harder on you all summer long, making sure that those get their establishment water. So this is something that's really common with folks who buy drought tolerant plants and things that are, appropriate for our climate, with the idea of saving water. And you can save water, but you need to wait to really reduce the irrigation until they're well established. And if you plant in the fall, like Haven is saying, you're going to be in way better shape in terms of the watering and the establishment, because you'll start to be able to cut back on that watering quite a bit before the next summer. Whereas if you're doing it in the spring, you have to watch it a lot more closely. It's still a good time, like she said, but fall is definitely best. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Or even, okay, so there's a particular interest in tours that teach us what the native plants are in the gardens closest to the nursery. Okay, all right. I'm going to pass this all along. This is really helpful to know. So thank you all. That's really good. And we've got, or even pamphlets with native plant names that you could do a self tour. These are fantastic ideas. Will the Arboretum have another plant sale soon? So we are open for business, but only to members, because we have just recently launched our curbside pickup, which Haven had a photo that she featured. So we are not able to host public plant sales where you can come and get your own plants just yet. But we are excited to be able to do that someday, because it takes a lot of work to pull all those plants ourselves. And it's nice, like you always pick up something that you didn't expect to when it just catches your eye too. So that's the other thing. So that will be coming someday. We just started up those curbside, so I'm not really sure when. But in the meantime, if you become a member, which if you go onto our website, I would think, are you looking for that right now, Have?
Yep, I'll post it in just a second.
Okay, perfect. It's a part of the process. You can sign up and then you can start shopping. So okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Pam. Thank you. It's pretty easy. I just renewed my membership. So from Chris to everyone, how distant can a volunteer be at the plant sale, loading up cars and pulling plants? We have been so far not able to bring back volunteers. We were able to bring back essential staff, and then the next phase was essential student workers. But many people may not know we are not allowed to have any interns outside, meet with any of them outside in the Arboretum. We can only have paid essential workers at this point. And so we do have a plan to return our volunteers to the gardens, and it's been a heavy impact on us because we had 150 a week in the gardens for a total of 300 hours of labor per week that dried up back in March. However, we're going to roll out a phased reduced plan, and we've got the safety plan submitted. It takes weeks for it to get reviewed, but we're hoping to get them back soon. But so hopefully that answers your question, that we actually can't have volunteers at this time. But we do follow all of the distancing guidelines of the university and of the county, which is 6 feet or more and with a mask. And actually in the Arboretum and Public Garden, we try to do 10 feet whenever possible, just to be extra cautious. So, okay. How do you know when your plants are established? That's a good one. Haven, do you want to take a crack at that?
I'm the designer, you're the horticulturist. But typically, I mean, what people will say is that it takes 1 to 2 years for establishment. I would be on the safe side and go 2 to 3 years. And you can tell, it's like when you first plant a plant and you can see that it starts to droop after a day or two without water, you realize that it needs more. So as long as you're watchful and you see how it does, you can kind of start cutting back on the water, but you really, it's that first, I'd say 2 years, really just looking at it, paying attention to it and seeing how it does, then start kind of moving back from the amount of water that you give it. You want to add to that, Stacy?
Well, I will add to that because oftentimes when you plant something, it just kind of sits there and it can do what Haven said, it can wilt, or it just kind of sits there for a bit. But typically around 4 to 6 weeks, the roots will have left the potting soil and they will have gone into the native field soil that just started. Okay, and at that point, you'll start to see some growth. Usually it starts to sort of perk up a little bit. When you get it to that point, that's when it's like it hits like another phase where it now it taps into that resource of all the water inside of, like in the soil, the native soil. Before that, it was really limited to and that dries out really quickly, the potting soil area. So you really had to keep a close watch. So it's a little bit of phasing, but I would agree with Haven that there's a period of a minimum of 1 full year, but depending upon the plant, it's always good just to stay in tune with them for the first couple of years, especially trees, things of that nature. You just really have to watch them during the summer times. And you do want to gradually increase the duration between your irrigation so that they go deeper and deeper for the water, and so that they're less susceptible to dry spells and dry periods, and they build out a root architecture that actually goes really deep. The problem with a lot of trees that are grown in lawns is the high frequency of irrigation is that the root architecture, they don't have to go very deep for continuously getting water, because you have to keep on giving your water to your lawn so frequently. So hopefully that helps to explain that a little bit further. Okay, let's see. Oh, what a sweet thing. Thank you, Chris. Chris is now even more thankful that we pulled off the sale. It was quite a triumph. So thank you very much. It was very difficult getting all of our inventory online, and we had to go through a vendor risk assessment with the university to, like use new software. It was amazing. So thank you very much for that appreciation. It's appreciated. Okay, I've been trying to create a more natural yard, but the grass keeps coming back. Haven, do you want to try that one? Do you want me to? I mean, I'll help you. We're tech. So if you have Bermuda grass, that's going to be, that is going to be a perennial problem, like no pun intended, except for pun intended. Bermuda is very, very difficult to get rid of. I got rid of my lawn, but I didn't have Bermuda because I had a shady lawn and it was much, much easier. Bermuda is very pernicious, but if you just keep at it for years and years and years, you'll get it.
That's what I would say. I mean,
right?
You just have to be like, find that zen and start weeding, because just yank it, get it as deeply as you can. If it means going in with like a little hori to get deep at those roots, pull it out. And that's going to be your best bet.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is, how do I diagnose what's wrong with my 3-year-old native plants that aren't happy? Some aren't growing at all. That's a little tricky. In normal times, I would say take photos, really good photos, both like close up and far away, and bring them to our Arboretum plant sales. Because you can show people like, this is in my yard, how come this isn't working? If they're not happy at all, I would say they're probably getting too much water, or they are getting too much or too little sun. Like, I would say it's something in the conditions are tough. They also could be, like sensitive to our soils and our salts. We have very salty water and salty.
Or clay, the clay soil can be really tough.
Oh, yeah. If it's not a very well draining, if you have a soil with high clay content, that can be tricky. So
the high clay content, that kind of answers the question about keeping lavender alive. Lavender really needs well-drained soil. And so clay is not very well draining. And so that's one where if you've got your lavender and clay, it's going to be a hard run. I mean, ideally you'd mix it up and you'd add some sand and some compost and really try and make it drain better, because if it's clay, it's tough. Wet feet are not good for lavender.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for our questions. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Haven, for inspiring us to get back out there.
Thank you all for coming. I didn't think. I'm really happy that you are all here, and thank you. And if you want to follow at all, I'm going to give a little plug for 2 Instagram accounts that we've got, because Stacy and I have one for our Nature RX class that is at UC Davis Nature RX. And that's Instagram. And then my design build class, where you can see what we're doing at the courtyard, is at UC Davis _design build. And so you can see that's another like plant porn kind of thing that you can follow and have fun with. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Oh, and that was a good, Olivia, thank you for sharing with Chris that the UC Master Gardener program in your county can diagnose plant problems. I didn't know that via email. That's fabulous. What a wonderful resource. So thank you. Thank you all so very much. Oh, we did have one more question come in about whether or not the clay soil pertained to pineapple guava as well. And I will say that those are tough plants and they are way more flexible in like a lot of different conditions. They're a lot less fussy. And so while, you know, like you want to be somewhat mindful of, you don't need to overwater them. They're not as finicky. Wouldn't you say, Have?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've got one in clay and it's doing just fine. It's
Yeah.
putting on new growth and is really happy.
Yeah, good. Thank you all so much for coming. Check out our upcoming, we've got some more fabulous Nature RX presentations every Friday until December, like mid
18.
Yeah. So more good things to come. So thank you all so much, and more, keep the ideas coming our way about what kind of programs you want to see. So thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
you.